A third example of Muslim countries today, there are a group of countries in what used to be Russia that were all Muslim in the past and in the present, not very active Muslims in communist days. Probably there's been a revival of it now, but at least culturally. And you've heard of Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and then the Uyghurs in China. And so in this area of the world, now, I don't know how many of you read, I think it was The Economist this past week, told about, here's Uzbekistan, and it has one of the most corrupt, brutal dictatorships you can imagine. Far worse than anything we could imagine. Almost Stalinist in character, although it's not based on communist ideology. And it's a major staging point for the U.S. to get into Afghanistan. We have to have some place on Afghanistan's border, and so Pakistan and Uzbekistan. And so we kind of get forced into recognizing and not much criticizing some very cruel regimes, but there it is. That's just the way it is in the world, I guess. Unless you believe that a world map ought to have utopia and that human beings ought to change. I don't know. Well, that's the third group of Muslim countries. A fourth group is what I call Pakistan and Sudan, divided uncertainty, corrupted democracy, and anti-radical, anti-jihadist military rule, and all kinds of other things going on. And that describes Pakistan right here. I've spent a good amount of time in Pakistan at one point, where the Christian church has been all but eliminated. Pakistan, with its differing ethnic groups, and mostly had military rule since independence from Great Britain after the bloody conflict in 1947. And here it has the form of democracy, but the present Prime Minister was the husband of the martyred Bhutto
Bhutto.
Huh? Yeah?
Bhutto.
Yeah, but she was, no, not, I forget. Excuse me, I'm getting old. Her husband was called Mr. 10%. So it is just a horribly divided country. It has jihadists that are attacking in both this part of Pakistan, which is Punjabi, very much like this part of India in ethnic background, and the hill tribes up here adjacent to Afghanistan. And Sudan, huge country. North of this line, it's Arab. South of this line, it's black and mainly Christian. And this is where the genocide, one of the genocides, has been happening for these last many years. And South Sudan is now voted for independence and is trying to make something of itself. And here's Sudan, technically, when it became independent, a democracy, but governed by a strong man, and with strong jihadist elements. A fifth category are true secular democracies that have Muslim majorities. And where do you find that? Turkey. Okay. And that's Egypt had started out that way. Iran, after the Shah and before the Shah, had approached that kind of democracy, but obviously not now. The sixth category are closed Arab Muslim kingdoms, remembering that 2/3 of Muslims in the world are not Arab. They are Indonesians or Malaysians or Iranians, Persians of old, African, and so on. But so Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Bahrain, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi are what are the current closed Muslim countries. And how is the current series of Arab Muslim revolts going to affect these countries, if at all? We may want to talk about that. Then another group of Muslim countries are African dictatorships and or kleptocracies. Libya, and notice that all of these are either the current or the past scene of struggles to oust the present rulers. Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco. Guinea-Bissau has become one of the biggest drug trading transport hubs, like Minneapolis or Atlanta is an airline hub. Guinea-Bissau is a place where the Latin Americans can ship drugs that go into Europe or that cross over in the United States. So here you've got simple dictatorships, kleptocracies. You know what I mean, or what is meant by that term. What is a kleptomaniac? Someone who has a compulsion to steal, shoplift, or whatever. A kleptocracy is a name that has been invented to describe a number of countries that have dictatorships where billions and billions of dollars are stashed overseas, and then you have number 8, a failed Muslim state, Somalia. Right in here with pure anarchy at the moment. So you've got at least these 8 different, like I say, you can please do argue with the categories in which I put these countries, but I've just done it out of my own reading. That I expect anybody else to agree with me particularly. Well, okay, so there we have it. What can we do? I list 4 things, and I'm just going to mention them and then open up for discussion. Hold on to our hard-won Western values of freedom, individual freedom, human rights, the role of reason, and the value of religious pluralism. I think it's these things right here that we have struggled for, and we need to hold on without, however much we may fail at times to live up to these ideals. I think we need to hold on to those ideas of individual freedom, human rights, the role of reason, and the value of religious pluralism. Hold specifically to the heart of our Christian faith, the source of hope for today's world. The message of Jesus, to love God and to love neighbor, is universal love, and to see Jesus as one who brings peace, not conflict, and to sustain the biblical tradition, which we're hard-pressed to sustain today. Confession, we have fallen short in what we have done and not done before God. Turn to God with repentance, self-examination, salvation by grace. I want to read one passage that I've sent out here that I think, and then finally work for reconciliation with Islam. This is from the first letter of the first epistle of John. When I say hang on to what we've got. Beloved, we are God's children now. Says John. Beloved, we are God's children now. But what we will be has not yet been revealed. We haven't grown into what the hope of the future, the promise of transformation. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we will be has not yet been revealed. But what we do know is this: when he is revealed, we will be like him. It's not like what's all wrong with the world, every tradition and human being. But the hope of transformation, we will be like him, for we will see him like he is. Isn't that a promise?